Robert Haldane's Commentary on Romans, Chapter 3, Part 1, verses 1 through 20. This chapter consists of 3 parts. The first part extends to the 8th verse inclusively and is designed to answer and remove some objections to the doctrine previously advanced by the apostle. In the second part, from the 9th to the 20th verses, it is proved by the testimonies of various scriptures that the Jews, as well as the Gentiles, are involved in sin and guilt, and consequently that none can be justified by the law. The third part commences at verse 21, where the apostle reverts to the declaration in chapter 1, verse 17, with which his discussion commenced, and exhibits the true and only way of justification for all men by the righteousness of God imputed through faith in Jesus Christ. Verse 1. What advantage then hath the Jew, or what profit is there of circumcision? If the preceding doctrine be true, it may be asked, what advantage hath the Jew over the Gentile, and what profit is there in circumcision if it does not save from sin? If, on the contrary, the Jews, on account of their superior privileges, will be held more culpable before the tribunal of divine justice, as the apostle had just shown, it appears obviously improper to allege that God has favored them more than the Gentiles. This objection it was necessary to obviate, not only because it is specious, but because it is important, and might, in regard to the Jews, arrest the course of the gospel. It is specious, for if, in truth, the advantages of the Jews, so far from justifying them, contribute nothing to cause the balance of divine judgment to preponderate in their favor, if their advantages rather enhance their condemnation, does it not appear that they are not only useless, but positively pernicious? In these advantages, then, it is impossible to repose confidence. But the objection is also important, for it would be difficult to imagine that all God had done for the Jews, his care of them so peculiar and his love of them so great, in short, all the privileges which Moses exalts so highly, were lavished on them in vain, or turned to their disadvantage. The previous statement of the apostle might then be injurious to the doctrine of the gospel, by rendering him more odious in the eyes of his countrymen, and therefore he had good reasons for fully encountering and answering this objection. In a similar way, it is still asked by carnal professors of Christianity, of what use is obedience to the law of God, or the observance of his ordinances, if they do not save the soul, or contribute somewhat to this end? Verse 2, much every way, chiefly because that unto them were committed the oracles of God. Paul here repels the foregoing objection as false and unfounded. Although the privileges of the Jews cannot come into consideration for their justification before the judgment seat of God, it does not follow that they were as nothing or of no advantage. On the contrary, they were marks of the peculiar care of God for that people, while he had, as it were, abandoned all the other nations. They were as aids, too, which God had given to deliver them from the impiety and depravity of the Gentiles, and by the accompanying influences of his Spirit, they were made effectual to the salvation of many of them. Finally, the revelation made to the Jews contained not only figures and shadows of the gospel, but also preparations for the new covenant. God had bestowed nothing similar on the Gentiles. The advantage then of the Jews was great, much every way. This does not mean in every sense, for the apostle does not retract what he had said in the preceding chapter, namely that their advantages were of no avail for justification to the Jews continuing to be sinners, for on the contrary, in that case they only enhanced their condemnation. But this expression signifies that their advantages were very great and very considerable, chiefly because that unto them were committed the oracles of God. The original denotes primarily, which is not a priority of order, but a priority in dignity and advantage. That is to say, that of all the advantages God had vouchsafed to them, the most estimable and most excellent was that of having entrusted to them his oracles. The word here used for oracles signifies the responses or answers given by an oracle, and when the Scriptures are so designated, it implies that they are altogether, in word as well as in sense, the communications of God.